Hi and welcome to Awaken to the Truth of You series. And today we're going to be talking about all that is needed to expand and the obstacles put in the way. So before we go into this, what I want you to do is I want you to have a bird's eye view of where you are and who you are. Let's take it back a little bit so you can understand the stages of the physical life. So we've already discussed about the creation of you into a physical human is the second point of creation. And you're born 100% love labelled, and you have your soul contract in your back pocket, so to speak, all ready to tackle. And then you start your journey. And going through your journey with your soul contract and your higher self guiding you with your watcher there behind you and your gatekeeper, your team members supporting you, you begin to start experiencing the obstacles. And you have a choice to label them from a love perspective or from a fear perspective. But your soul contract has put into place quite a number of events that will be more likely for you to experience and label as fear. So as you're going through your soul contract, and what tends to happen is we get to that point where we have over 50% of our stored vibration within our physical body that is actually fear labelled. And then we start getting to that tipping point. That's that tipping point where where things start to get worse and worse and worse. And what we have done, all of us do within our soul contract, very unusual if you don't, you have awakening trigger points. For me, I've had 2 awakening trigger points. One in my 20s when I miscarried, and the second one when my ex basically tried to kill me, and it triggered a chain of events, and that's called a predetermined event. And it then triggers you to feel so dreadful that you want to move into feel better. So your desire is to feel the absolute opposite of where you are, and that's what triggers you to look elsewhere and to start understanding the world from a different perspective. And my second trigger point enabled me to get to this point, because as if you've not watched my soul contract video, I actually had 2 other roads I could have taken from that moment where he tried to kill me, that would have literally led to my death, an early death. And he wouldn't have killed me, but I needed to trigger fear of death, and then it would either have caused me to become addicted to a substance, or had so much low vibration stored within me, it would have created a terminal illness, and I would literally have been dead by now. And if you don't believe me, it's really fascinating, because the trigger happened within 6 months. Our relationship finished, and I knew it was the right thing, even though I was very sad and upset. He met his future wife within months. She went on to die of cancer within 18 months of them being together. So within his soul contract, he needed to have a partner that died. It's fascinating. And it couldn't possibly be me, because I triggered the light path, and I couldn't have him on my path. So that was my second awakening point, and it's taken me a few years of awakening to get to this point. And this is where you start to reframe and shift and transform all those fear labelled memories back into love. And then you become consciously whole, and then you begin this is what is put into, I would say, what's the guidance on this? 85% of people's soul contracts. That's the guidance I'm getting. The 85% of contracts and the physical, the rest of them, the 15%, there's never ever going to be a love labelling situation. They are just experiencing fear and expansion through that. and then they move into, then they transition. But 85% of us that come into physical, we could have the opportunity to be consciously whole. And what consciously whole means is that your physical body is love labeled. You have all memories that are labeled with love. You have a perspective that has you can only see love. So every situation, like as simple as I was going to my nephew, I bought him a bottle of, I think it was Southern Comfort, and I actually sent it to my address rather than his address. So I cancelled the order, and I was planning to go to a particular shop to get it, and I arrived at the shop and it was shut because of lockdown. It's shitting at weird times, and for a moment I thought, there's a reason for this. And so I got in my car and I went to the next shop on the way, which I would never normally go to, and the bottle of Southern Comfort was on discount, and it was there and available, and it was cheaper than the bottle that I would have purchased elsewhere, and it certainly would have been cheaper than the shop that I would have bought it in. So I think it was £6 cheaper. So even though that could have been, I mean, we're talking really simple here, small, from the intricate detail to the higher levels. That, for me, I was like, okay, thank you so much. That is consciously whole, because the guidance was, it wasn't supposed to be like that. And when you're consciously whole, you don't actually need anybody else. You don't need guidance from anybody else. You don't need a guru elsewhere. You get all your guidance from your higher self, because by becoming 100% love labeled, or 60 to 70% love labeled, you can begin to receive from your higher self, and your capabilities that you had pre-planned within your inner being and within your soul begin to be enacted, and you start to be able to truly live the later part of your soul contract like you always planned to do. And so you have access to your team, this incredible non-physical team, and it grows from just your watcher and your gatekeeper and your higher self, and then you start to get specialist new guides coming in, and as the capabilities are starting to be enacted, as you're expanding, and it's the actual expansion through the transformation of your energy system from going from fear to love that enables the enactment of these capabilities. And then you start living this life of wonder. And wonder means looking at everything through the eyes of love. You're 100% stored love within your body. You don't actually add any more fear to your physical body. And then when you're in transition, you transition into your eternal life, and you already love labeled, but you've expanded and you begin to ascend. And I know that this lifetime, Angela and I are going to ascend, because we've already that was pre-planned, and she's actually been planning this for 3 lifetimes to ascend into the 17th dimension. Now, I'm only explaining this from my perspective so that you can sort of relate to it, because this is relevant to everybody. You are all born with 100% love label feelings. You are all born with the most incredible energy within you, your higher self's energy. You're born with amazing capabilities, and you've already trained in non-physical for this as per your soul contract. You have the vibration of God within you. You are 100% love labeled. You are magnificent, amazing beings. So, just as you planned within your soul contract, everything that has happened in your life was there to help you create exactly the right obstacles in your life so that you could feel the right type of fear to expand and reach for love. For once you're born, you actually forget that you've done this and forget that it was your choice. And that's the situation. And that's why we call it awakening, because you're awakening and remembering. Awakening to the truth of who you really are, the truth of you. as I've explained, you're not alone. You're never alone. You always have an absolute minimum a watcher and a gatekeeper. So I'll explain what these are again. So your higher self is the greater part of you, and you are, when you're created, a part of your higher self, and God is put together plus a little soupçon that creates you. It's your higher self that has the incarnations. You only have one incarnation. So past lives only exist for your higher self, but they make you as an individual. You are unique as you are. And you have a gatekeeper, which is basically the most incredible being. And what the gatekeeper does is allow you access to non-physical. So they allow you to call in your mum if they're in non-physical, or quite frankly, if you want to call Jesus in, you can call Jesus in, and your gatekeeper will bring Jesus to you. It's whether or not you can receive the energy of that. If you want to bring in God, you can do that. Ask now to bring God or the gatekeeper to you. But God actually brings up an awful lot of fear in people. So think of an ascended master, think of an archangel, and ask your gatekeeper to bring them to you. And ask your watcher, who up until recently, well, for many years, has been called a guardian angel. Every single one of us has a watcher, and our watcher is watching everything. They're the guides that will inspire you to turn left rather than right, because left is actually where you need to go, or will make you aware when you're about to crash the car and you'll suddenly put your brakes on, or will be sending you a feather floating from the sky to say, hello, we're here, we love you, especially if you ask for one. Try it. Say to your watcher, please can you send me a feather, and make it in the most unusual place possible, and it will give you some confirmation. And basically from the 12th dimension up, they are all the angelic realms. So if your watcher is on the 12th dimension up, then they are an angel. And if they are in the ultimate dimension, they are an archangel. But it's unusual for... Actually, that's not true. Archangels are watchers, can be watchers, but it's more common for watchers to be between the 5th and the 25th dimension. The gatekeeper tends to be of a higher dimension and extremely evolved, because, as I've mentioned, you can ask for God, or you can ask for an ascended master to come and chat to you and come and connect with you. And of course, the energy of your gatekeeper, they're the access point. They're the ones that help you to bring them to you. They need to be highly evolved to do that. And then you have a non-physical broader team that I won't go into at this point, that come through as you go through and expand in your obstacles. But what is so important is to note that they're here to help you within your soul contract as you planned, but you will have briefed them on how much help you want to receive from them and from the broader non-physical team. And so when you're struggling and you feel alone, it's not because they're not there, it's because the likelihood is you've briefed them not to help you, because you wanted to experience what you're experiencing and really expand from that experience. So when you're born into this wonderful physical world and you're 100% beautifully gorgeous, scrummy little baby full of love, your parents and your family unit are often picked because they're going to help you hit the ground running in terms of what you want to create in terms of your broader truth. And if you want to understand more about broader truths, watch the Law of Truth video and listen to the recording. For example, in my case, my broadest truth was I am not worthy. And it's used as an opportunity using Law of Attraction to attract more. When you actually see the world through the filter of I am not worthy, you create an awful lot of low vibrational feelings, and they become stored, and then you're going to be able to achieve the dark path experience that you asked for in your soul contract. So this is why you highly ascended beings will often pick families where their they're not from the same soul group, that they're quite disconnected, in fact very disconnected, that can cause a lot of angst and upset and cause unpleasantness, so that they can create that broadest truth, so that they can actually follow this dark path and experience the fear that they wanted to in order to expand. So let's just reiterate. Dark path basically means a path that creates lots of low vibration, fear, anger, hate. And your broader truth that can create that path is, I am bad, I am not worthy, I am evil, I'm not good enough, I'm naughty. And a light path, because some people do, actually create the most dreamy, wondrous paths. And they can be born to the most wondrous parents who just adore them and give them everything they need to feel loved, and they create the belief, the broader belief that I am worthy, I'm a really good girl, I'm a really good boy, and that allows them to attract either, well, if they're a good boy, lots of love, or if they're a naughty boy and unworthy, fear kind of experiences. Because when you're actually experiencing the fear, you're experiencing the contrast to what was in non-physical. And once an experience is labelled love or fear, it becomes stored within your subconscious and cellular level. And it starts to begin to affect your body in some cases. So I touched on this in the Law of Truth recording. In terms of, let's give an example. You fall off a horse, you result in a hip injury. And what can happen is all the feelings that you felt at that time, fear of death, devastation, shock, sadness, anger, fear, can be stored actually in the cells around your hip that then go on, and it could have happened at 9, and then you attract more and more fear, devastation, shock in, and when it actually comes into your physical body, or you've created it and you start to store it, it goes and like attracts it finds those cells that already have those feelings in them, and it just piles on top and top and top and top, and then distortion starts to happen, and this is where dis-ease starts to occur. Dis, i.e. D-I-S, meaning not, and ease, not ease, disease. And that's where the lack of flow and positivity can create issues, physical issues. And then every day from that moment, you begin to trigger the fear without realizing it. And as you store it, you trigger it and you start creating it. And that is termed actual transitional vibration. And it becomes that dripping tap in the background. It's not stored. And if it's not released, it will be added to the stored low vibration within your physical body, usually adding to where you've already stored it. This is sort of like a watered down version, but don't discount it, because it is massively effective of the physical body, the mental bodies, in fact the emotions. It affects you everywhere, of what PTSD is. So in PTSD, what you're having is an extreme event that is so traumatic that it can be triggered by walking into a room, too many people, so many different, literally it's triggered on a consistent basis. But the triggering, it's not with a dripping tap, it's triggered, but it's kind of like an underlying anxiety. With PTSD, it's triggered and the person can't function. So it's the same thing that's happening to you, but on just a lesser, it's less, it seems less, but it's still impacting the physical body in a huge way. So dark path is the purpose of a dark path, and this is why we need the low vibrational experiences. It's so that we can experience contrast to non-physical. Because contrast causes us to want change, causing you to launch desires, rockets of desire. And contrast causes you to focus and more deliberately on what you actually really do want to create. That's what contrast is all about. And it's a desire. A desire is actually, a definition of desire is wanting something that's going to satisfy you, a true desire, where you'll feel really satisfied in the having of it and really like, oh my God, I feel so amazing. Absolutely just, and every time you look at it, you feel just wonderful and you get so happy with it. And as you store low vibration with your cells, your persistent energy flowing out into the universe reflects this. I've touched on this in the law of truth. It's really fascinating, thus ensuring that pre-manifested dark path experiences come into your life due to that wonderful law, the law of attraction, that Abraham Hicks talks about and teaches. Abraham is the most incredible being, and he has this amazing collective of teachers, and he is here to teach the law of attraction. And Esther does it beautifully, and the information that comes through is absolutely astounding. And I teach more about law of attraction in my paid programs: Solar Client Attraction, Magical Manifesting, School of Manifesting, and Baby Manifesting. So if you want to know more about them, have a look for those programs.